May 2025. A dealer at Fontainebleau Las Vegas walks into the break room expecting another quiet shift. Instead, security hands him a box. 60 table game dealers are being let go effective immediately. The $3.7 billion megaresort, Nevada's tallest building, is hemorrhaging money. Reports suggest losses of $400,000 per day. The casino floor sits conspicuously empty. This is the story of how the most expensive resort in Las Vegas history became a cautionary tale of ambition, bad luck, and worse timing, stranded in luxury on the wrong end of the strip. To understand how things went so wrong, we need to go back to 2005. Florida developer Jeffrey Soffer had just acquired the legendary Fontainebleau Miami Beach, a hotel that once hosted Frank Sinatra, Elvis Presley, and the Rat Pack. It was the very definition of American glamour. And Soffer had a vision: bring that glamour to Las Vegas. He chose a 24-acre plot on the north end of the Strip, the former site of the El Rancho Hotel and the Algiers. The location seemed promising. Vegas was booming. Real estate values were soaring to unprecedented heights. And Soffer wasn't building just another casino, he was building a monument. A 67-story tower that would become the tallest occupiable building in Nevada, rising 737 feet above Las Vegas Boulevard. A $2.9 billion bet that luxury could conquer the desert. The project was designed by Carlos Zapata Studio, known for pushing architectural boundaries. The plans called for nearly 4,000 rooms, more than 24 restaurants, a spa inspired by Iceland's Blue Lagoon, and a 100,000-square-foot casino with soaring 42-foot ceilings. Former Mandalay Resort Group president Glenn Schaefer came aboard, predicting that less than one-third of revenues would come from gaming. This would be a new kind of Vegas property, one where luxury, not gambling, drove the business. Construction began in February 2007 with great fanfare. Turnberry West Construction assembled a sprawling network of subcontractors racing to complete one of the most ambitious hotel projects in American history. But trouble arrived almost immediately. In July 2007, 70 ironworkers walked off the job, refusing to work in what they called unsafe conditions. They returned 3 days later after safety measures were implemented. Then, in August, tragedy struck. A construction worker fell 30 feet when his safety harness failed. He died from his injuries. Less than a week later, 3 massive 60-foot concrete slabs collapsed in the parking garage. A fire department spokesperson said if anyone had been underneath, they surely would have died. Inside the building, chaos was brewing. A Las Vegas Sun investigation revealed that architects and contractors were in constant conflict, with screaming matches breaking out in meetings. One engineer described the situation as building on the edge, racing ahead with construction while designers struggled to keep up, knowing they'd have to tear down sections and rebuild them weeks later because the designers haven't caught up to us yet. Still, by November 2008, the tower had been topped off. From the outside, the blue glass giant gleamed against the desert sky. The opening was scheduled for fall 2009. Then came the crash. The Great Recession hit Las Vegas harder than almost anywhere else in America. Real estate values collapsed virtually overnight. Tourism plummeted as Americans tightened their belts. And the banks that had promised to finance the Fontainebleau, a group led by Bank of America that had committed approximately $4 billion, began having serious second thoughts about throwing more money into a sinking ship. In April 2009, Fontainebleau Resorts did something desperate. They sued their own lenders. The developers called them unscrupulous, alleging they had backed out without cause. They pointed fingers at Deutsche Bank specifically, claiming the institution had a conflict of interest. They held an ownership stake in the competing Cosmopolitan Resort also under construction nearby. Deutsche Bank was supposed to provide $80 million. The developers accused them of seeking to destroy the Fontainebleau in order to minimize competition for their own investment. The project was 70% complete. Thousands of rooms sat furnished but empty. Restaurants were installed but would never serve a meal. The marble had been laid. The fixtures hung. Without more funding, developers warned in court filings, the resort cannot be finished and will never open. On June 9, 2009, Fontainebleau Las Vegas filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy. listing between 1,000 and 5,000 creditors, including subcontractors owed more than $250 million. Construction crews packed up their tools. The Blue Tower went dark, and for the next 14 years, the Fontainebleau would stand as a towering symbol of economic catastrophe, a 67-story ghost haunting the north end of the Strip, its unfinished skeleton visible from miles away. Billionaire Carl Icahn bought the property out of bankruptcy in 2010 for roughly $150 million, pennies on the dollar, compared to the billions spent. He stripped it bare and let it sit, spending a few million annually just to maintain the structure. When tourists asked about the mysterious blue building, locals would shake their heads. Some said the copper cables had been stolen. Others claimed concrete had been poured into the pipes. The Fontainebleau had become Las Vegas's most expensive eyesore and its most persistent mystery. In 2017, Icahn sold to New York developer Steve Witkoff for $600 million. Witkoff renamed it The Drew, after his son Andrew, who had died of an OxyContin overdose in 2011 at age 22. He announced plans to finally finish the resort, partnering with Marriott International. By January 2020, he was close to securing a $2 billion construction loan. Then came March 2020. The pandemic shut down Las Vegas entirely. Construction stopped again. Contractors filed tens of millions in liens claiming unpaid bills. Several former employees sued, alleging they were laid off and never paid what their contracts promised. The Fontainebleau seemed cursed beyond redemption. But Jeffrey Soffer, the man who started it all, wasn't ready to give up. Act 3. The Resurrection. In February 2021, Soffer bought back the project in partnership with Koch Real Estate Investments, the real estate arm of the Kansas-based industrial conglomerate. He restored the original Fontainebleau name and committed to finishing what he'd started 16 years earlier. A new billboard appeared near the construction site, proclaiming in bold letters, "Miracles still happen." This time, Soffer redesigned everything from scratch. He reduced the room count to 3,644, but expanded the luxury suites to between 5,000 and 10,000 square feet. He added 550,000 square feet of meeting and convention space, recognizing the adjacent Las Vegas Convention Center as a potential gold mine. In December 2022, he secured $2.2 billion in construction financing. The total project cost would reach $3.7 billion, the second most expensive resort ever built in Las Vegas. On December 13, 2023, nearly 2 decades after the project was first announced, the Fontainebleau Las Vegas finally opened its doors. The celebrity-filled grand opening featured Justin Timberlake, Post Malone, and Paul Anka. Time magazine would name it one of the world's greatest places to visit. The 173,000-square-foot casino sparkled beneath those famous 42-foot ceilings, featuring 1,300 slot machines and 128 table games. The restaurants included Mother Wolf, from celebrity chef Evan Funke, Komodo, and the acclaimed Don's Prime Steakhouse. After everything, the deaths, the bankruptcy, the pandemic, the Fontainebleau had risen from the dead. Soffer called it a symbol of resilience, determination, and our unwavering commitment. But within weeks, it would become clear that opening was only the beginning of the problems. Here's the fundamental problem nobody could solve. The Fontainebleau sits on the wrong end of the Strip. Walk south from the Bellagio, past the Cosmopolitan, past the Venetian, past Wynn and Encore, and you're still not even close. The distance from Caesar's Palace to Wynn is 1.1 miles, about what most tourists will comfortably walk. The Fontainebleau sits another half-mile beyond that, across from Circus Circus and surrounded by empty lots, condominium towers, and strip malls. There's no monorail connection. The Vegas Loop hasn't reached the property yet. Guests describe the walk to the main strip as a 20-minute trek that nobody wants to make in 110-degree summer heat. One guest wrote they went back and forth to Bellagio a few times, and each cab ride cost $20. Another noted it was a long walk to the main portion of the strip, and they would not recommend walking it during the summer. For casino operators, location is everything. Walk-in traffic generates spontaneous gambling, It builds the customer databases that fuel Vegas's entire business model, the comps, the promotions, the return visits that keep casinos profitable year after year. Without foot traffic, a casino is essentially starting from zero, spending enormous sums on marketing just to get people through the door. The two properties' locations suck, one industry observer wrote bluntly, referring to Fontainebleau and neighboring resorts world. They're simply not near enough to the rest of the strip to get walk-up traffic, so you would need a special reason to go there. And what would that be? What do they offer that's unique or at least different? Nothing, as far as I can tell. Multiple visits to the property throughout early 2024 revealed closed casino pit sections, empty slot banks, and few diners at the food hall. One observer noted they saw only 3 tables busy with just 1 to 3 people at each, while only like 4 or 5 slot machines were occupied on the entire floor. Analyst Nate Silver, visiting months later, observed that the casino floors there often sit conspicuously empty. The numbers told an even grimmer story. Reports emerged suggesting occupancy rates around 49%, catastrophic for a 3,644-room property that needed to service billions in debt. The strip average hovered around 86%. Something was deeply, structurally wrong. Within weeks of opening, the Fontainebleau became infamous for all the wrong reasons. It started with nachos. A guest named Mike Herman ordered a plate at the sportsbook and waited an hour for his food. When it arrived, he posted a photo on social media. 6 tortilla chips covered in melted cheese, surrounded by 4 dipping sauces. The price? $24. He tagged the hotel with a simple message. "Come on, man." The post went viral, racking up 1.2 million views. Other Vegas casinos piled on gleefully, posting photos of their own generous nachos at half the price. 4 Queens offered pulled pork nachos for $12.99. Binion's promoted their nachos starting at $15. The hashtag NachoGate was born, and Fontainebleau became a national punchline. The nacho incident was silly, but it touched a nerve about the property's entire approach. The Fontainebleau was charging luxury prices, sometimes double or triple what competitors charged, while delivering inconsistent value. The Spa Day Pass cost $150 per person when similar experiences at other luxury resorts ran $75. One guest noted that everything costs a small fortune, from drinks to food. Another complained about paying $44 for coffee and pastries. A visitor reported that restaurants were hiding their prices, forcing guests to call or book online just to learn what things cost. Gamblers had their own frustrations. The resort initially refused to match loyalty tiers from other casinos' standard industry practice for attracting established players. One platinum-level MGM player visited was denied a status match, ran $3,000 through the slots without winning anything meaningful, and left after 30 minutes. "FB clearly only wants to cater to whales," he wrote. The machines, multiple visitors complained, were tight, the payouts almost non-existent. A casino host confirmed they'd only done tier matching for a single day after opening, then stopped because too many people were coming in. The irony was brutal. A property struggling to attract customers was actively turning away the high-value gamblers who could save it. Service inconsistencies piled up. Billing disputes took days to resolve. Housekeeping didn't clean rooms unless requested, a policy nobody mentioned at check-in. Turn-down service was random. One guest reported checkout was a nightmare that wasn't resolved for 3 days. Another described the spa as having no shampoo, deodorant with the sauna off, and the hot tub full of dirty foam. The disconnect was unmistakable. Win prices without win consistency. The executive departures began almost immediately. Within a month of opening, 4 top executives had left, including Michael Clifford, the Senior Vice President of Casino Operations, Colleen Birch, the Chief Operating Officer, who had spent 13 years at the Cosmopolitan, and Shane Smith, the Chief Marketing Officer. Wynn Las Vegas filed a lawsuit claiming Fontainebleau had poached employees under non-compete clauses. In January 2024, Soffer brought in Maurice Wooden, a 36-year hospitality veteran who had served as president of Wynn and Encore from 2013 to 2019. The hope was that Wooden's experience running a successful luxury property could turn things around. But the challenges proved deeper than any single executive could solve. Then came the layoffs. In May 2025, up to 60 table game dealers were let go. The resort that once boasted about employing 6,250 team members was trimming staff to cut costs. These layoffs followed similar cuts across other departments in late 2024, when employees reportedly received only 2 weeks severance. The casino, struggling to build a player database, was now reducing the very staff meant to serve those players. And then, the investigation became public accidentally. During a Nevada Gaming Commission meeting in May 2025, Commissioner Rosa Solis-Rainey asked Wooden about the issues currently going on at the Fontainebleau with respect to credit issuance. Wooden appeared blindsided. "I'm not sure of any investigation as it relates to anything with AML," he said. "Is there something specific?" The Gaming Control Board had been investigating Fontainebleau for possible anti-money laundering violations. The property had allegedly issued a $2 million marker to a patron after management's denial was overruled by ownership, potentially violating the Bank Secrecy Act. Other major Vegas properties, MGM, Resorts World, Wynn, had faced similar probes and paid millions in fines. Now, Fontainebleau was in the crosshairs. Sources suggested the property was seeking $975 million in refinancing to restructure its debt. The resort also faced an $8,000 daily intellectual property royalty fee just to use the Fontainebleau name. This is the vicious cycle that kills casinos. Low occupancy leads to reduced revenue, leads to staff cuts, leads to worse service, leads to lower occupancy. Once the spiral begins, it's incredibly difficult to reverse. The irony is that the Fontainebleau is, by many accounts, genuinely beautiful. The rooms are modern and well-designed, featuring sophisticated blue, gray, and gold color schemes with floor-to-ceiling windows. The food court is excellent. Guests rave that every single spot is worth visiting. The gym is easily the best in Vegas. The architecture creates a sense of space and sophistication that older strip properties simply cannot match. "It's the Las Vegas experience for people who despise Las Vegas," one journalist wrote. "The emptiness that feels eerie to some is relaxing. To others, no shoulder-to-shoulder crowds, no fighting through smoke-filled casino floors. Some guests have converted from Wynn loyalists specifically because Fontainebleau offers peace. But that's precisely the problem. Las Vegas doesn't reward emptiness. The Strip runs on energy, on crowds, on the sense that something is always happening. A quiet luxury resort might work in Miami or Malibu. In Vegas, it feels like a ghost town." The Fontainebleau's supporters point to similar struggles at Resorts World, which opened in 2021 and gradually found its footing. They note that Fontainebleau purchased 5 additional acres for $112 million, suggesting confidence in future expansion. They highlight entertainment successes like Pitbull's residency and the American Music Awards at Blow Live. Maybe the Fontainebleau just needs time. But time is a luxury the Fontainebleau may not have. Vegas is unforgiving. As one hospitality executive bluntly put it, "There's no nostalgia for the past, only the numbers that show up in the books." The $3.7 billion resort that took 20 years to build arrived in the wrong place at the wrong moment, proving that in Las Vegas, even miracles can become cautionary tales. If this story left you thinking about what really makes or breaks mega projects, subscribe and hit the bell. More untold Vegas stories are coming.